Hi guys, Josh here, and I played the Harvest Moon Cozy Bundle so you don't have to. In this bundle are two games ported from the Nintendo 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, Harvest Moon The Lost Valley and Harvest Moon Skytree Village. For context, these are some of the first entries developed by Natsume, who owns the rights to the Harvest Moon name and logo, but beyond that, they are not connected to the original Harvest Moon series that is now known as Story of Seasons. So join me as I explore the very beginnings of this new Harvest Moon series. Leave a like or hype the video if you find it interesting or entertaining at any point. And thank you so much to Natsume for providing me with a review copy of the game. Let's start from the Switch home screen. This low-resolution image of a cow is for the Lost Valley, and this low-resolution chicken is for Skytree Village. The lack of logo is a bit strange, but far from the strangest thing we'll see today. We'll begin with the cow Harvest Moon The Lost Valley. I create a new save. For some reason I can only use the D-pad here. The stick doesn't work, but I managed to enter my name, my birthday, and I get to choose between playing as a boy or as a girl. Here I am. It looks like we're in the middle of winter. I am braving a snowstorm, making my way up this mountain. I have no clue what I'm looking for or how I got here. But one thing I do know is that I'm lost, since after all, this is the Lost Valley. That is when I stumble across this creature that looks like a Pikmin, who tells me I should get inside this house to stay out of the cold. What a genius idea, let's do that. There is no one in the house, but I know whoever was here was quite particular. Just look at the placement of this bed. This bed was clearly not built for me. My head can barely touch the pillow. But it is my bed now, and it's good enough to fall asleep. I dream of a desperate harvest goddess begging me to retrieve her bracelet, and I wake up suddenly to a bunch of farming tools right next to the table. I swear these were not there when I went to bed, and I hear a voice yelling for help from outside. So far, this is feeling a lot more like the intro of a horror movie than a cozy bundle, but I courageously grab the tools, run up the hill where the voice is coming from, and as you can see, these trees were not quite ready for my arrival. It looks like someone is stuck inside these blocks of dirt. They need me to save them, and I don't know how they could possibly see me, but they shout, "Wow, it's been so long since I last saw a human." I know you're already fully immersed into this plot, but even the best stories have flaws. The voice breaks the fourth wall and asks me to press the Y button to interact with the field, after which the squares will light up and show me all of the possible actions. By all of the possible actions, they mean back, 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 or shovel snow. The controls are a bit clunky, but I will get used to them, and I shovel all of the snow that's on the hill. The voice is not free quite yet, however. Now they want me to till the soil so that I can grow crops. So I repeat the same process, but now I'm tilling instead of shoveling, and then this yellow guy comes out of the ground. He looks like a tiny human in a Pikmin costume, but he is a harvest sprite named Rowan. Rowan gives me some seeds and tells me that to plant them, I will need to press the A button. He repeats that same thing immediately just in case, and makes sure that I remember to use the A button, not the Y button. So I plant the seeds with the A button, not the Y button. Then Rowan says if I don't water them, they will die, and I'll have to throw everything out with the A button. So I make sure to water all of the seeds, also with the A button. After going over all of the controls, Rowan gets back into character to explain the plot. We're supposed to be in spring right now, but this place has been stuck in an endless winter ever since the goddess lost her bracelet. But luckily, he did find the bracelet, and he's about to give it back to the goddess so that the seasons can return. He then tells me how I can use the B button to jump up or down 3 levels, press X to open the menu, and he runs out of my sight to go see the goddess. So I do what he says, I jump down, open the menu to have a look at my bag and requests, and interestingly, the menu has its own music that is different from the world's music, and that in itself is not necessarily uncommon, but here, every time I open or close the menu, the change and the way that the tracks reset just sounds very jarring. I also do not have any requests at the moment, so I'm not sure what I should be doing next. I run around looking for something to happen, I go home hoping for a hint, and that's where I find this encyclopedia in my bookshelf, where I get to learn more about myself. I am being described as a young man who likes plants, flowers, and animals. I would say this is pretty accurate. My occupation is main character, and my affinity level is blank. This last field is obviously meant for characters you can befriend, but it looks like the developers didn't bother removing it for the player. I try to go to bed, it doesn't let me, so I go back to the top of the mountain, till the soil a bit more, but what's the point? I don't have any seeds. I already want to give up on my new life in the Lost Valley, but then I see Rowan standing there doing nothing. That was not very clear, and while Rowan did make sure to tell me not to use the Y button, he never told me I was supposed to follow him. It turns out that the path to the Harvest Goddess Spring is blocked, so I will have to terraform to make it accessible again. I already have a shovel to do that, plus he gives me an axe to chop trees, as well as a whistle to call for rescue if I ever get stuck. I am trying my best to focus on what he's saying, but I keep being distracted by the way that the background music is looping. This track is less than a minute long, which is not uncommon, not a problem in itself, and it does have the potential to loop seamlessly, but they made it slowly fade out at the end, while it starts back abruptly at full volume, so the loop is extremely noticeable, and it completely takes me out of the experience every 30 seconds. Also, at the end of this dialogue with Rowan, I get bombarded with all of these sound effects. I'm assuming the first one is for completing a quest, but don't ask me where the others are coming from. Anyway, now I need to terraform my way up this mountain. And yes, this game came out a few years after Minecraft, when every other developer tried to hop in on the terraforming trend. Unfortunately for Natsume, this is nowhere near as fun as Minecraft. You can only terraform blocks that are either on the same level as you, or one level above or below, but it's tedious, the sound effects are annoying. It is not a good time, but after a few minutes, I finish building these stairs, if we can call them that. Then it is a bit of a hike, but I make it to the Harvest Goddess Spring, in this cave hidden behind a waterfall. Well, at least from the outside it's a cave, but as I go in, I see the sky above me, and I'm climbing up these stairs that go through the water. I'm a bit confused as to how this cave is working. I'm just here to do my job and deliver the bracelet, but the goddess is not showing up. To bring her back, we will first need to give her a bit of power, and that is done by growing crops and bringing back some animals. Rowan asks me if I want to help, but I don't even get the chance to say no, and there is the most abrupt music transition I've ever heard. He then gives me some broccoli seeds, and I guess it's time to get to work. This game is such a sensory overload, and I'm not exaggerating or cherry picking. Here's what happens at the end of this cutscene. It gets worse. I return to my fields, plant the broccoli seeds, and the watering sound effect lasts longer than the watering animation. So if I water too quickly, which is not even that quick, all of the sounds stack up on top of each other. At 2 p.m., I'm so tired from all that noise, so I go to bed, and I dream of this man, but who could it be? I don't know. I get up, I water my crops again, and I decide to chop some trees to pass the time. As I do that, I notice that every time I do an action, most of the UI disappears, like my money, the clock, and the minimap, but not my stamina. The stamina is not moving. I know they had to rework some of the UI, as originally a lot of this information was on the lower screen of the 3DS, so maybe it has to do with that. By the way, I've been cutting trees non-stop for 3 hours now, and my stamina is still full. It's really not moving. 2 p.m, I'm tired, I go to bed, and I wake up to someone knocking at my door, saying, "Hey, hey, hey, anybody's around." He comes in, and I recognize him instantly. He's the man of my dreams. I mean, he's the guy I saw in my dream the night before. He says, "Yikes, somebody's is around." I don't know why he came here if he wasn't expecting anyone, but he introduces himself as Sam, and buying and selling is his game. He continues, he says, "I heard rumors about yous down in Hillsville. Why would anybody's wanna live way out here's in the middle of nowheres? Yous need anything." I am not making fun of him. I don't know what kind of accent they were going for, but that is how his dialogue is written. He is trying to sell me a golden wallet that never runs out of cash, and that's when I realize this character is basically a knockoff version of one from Friends of Mineral Town, who is an untrustworthy traveling merchant. Even the outfit is similar, and I find it comical how the very first human character we meet is not only a knockoff of a scammer from a past Harvest Moon game, but on top of that he was created by developers who are using the Harvest Moon brand recognition to sell this game to players who, especially back in 2014, were not aware this had nothing to do with the original Harvest Moon series. In a way, Sam is the perfect representation of Natsume's Harvest Moon. I kindly decline his offer for the wallet, then he gets suspiciously close to my face. Maybe he is the man of my dreams after all. He hands me a free bag of flower seeds, and almost hits me with his giant backpack as he turns back around. It's decided he's going to set up his shop in front of my house every day between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Yes, this random traveling merchant I just met will climb all the way up this mountain in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, in the middle of nowheres. And he will stand in the cold in front of my place for 14 hours a day and for the rest of his life in hopes of trading with me. I don't have any money to buy anything right now, but remember I chopped some trees yesterday. So I sell him my 99 softwood lumber, and just like that, I now have close to 3,000 coins, and I buy 99 broccoli seeds. This feels way too easy, as if the tables had turned and I was the one scamming him. It's fine, the economy might be a bit broken, but it is working out for me, and the real challenge is what comes next, planting those 99 broccoli seeds. Luckily, it is snowing today, so there's no need to water by hand, but the shoveling, tilling, and sowing is grueling. I tend to enjoy the repetitive chores in a foreign game. I find it relaxing, calming, as long as it feels satisfying and rewarding, but that is not the case here. It is small things, but the annoying sound effects, the music that loops in a jarring way, the clunky controls, they all add up and it's not great, it's grating. For once, I don't go to bed at 2 p.m., as it takes me until 10 p.m. to plant everything. After this long day of work, I dream of Sam again, I can't help it, and it's telling me his birthday is coming up. It doesn't tell me when, just that it's coming up. When I wake up, there he is. Not for his birthday, I don't know when that is. He's here to give me some more free seeds. I gladly accept his gift, but before I plant anything else, I have to water my 99 broccolis. As I refill my watering can, which I have to do quite often, I notice how the well is only one single tile away from the river. I'm not an expert, but isn't the whole point of a well, well, the fact that it lets you get water when you're away from a body of water? If I'm here, I might as well just use the water from the river. It doesn't make too much sense. And I'd love to know the thought process of the developer who placed it here. If you're watching, let me know. By 2:30 p.m., I finished watering my crops. My character is still feeling great with 4 hearts of stamina. At least now I know it's moving. But personally, I am exhausted, so I skip to the next day. This time in my dream, I see a child I've never met before who seems to be at the goddess Spring, but I wake up to this man called Luke, completely unrelated to that dream I just had. He is looking for medicinal ingredients, so he's going to be in front of my house on Sundays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 10 being written 10 and 6 being written 6:00, these two in the same sentence. I'm not confident he's going to find too much medicinal ingredients around here, but in exchange for letting him stay, I guess, he shares some of his valuable knowledge with me. Depending on conditions such as the season, height, land, and type of fertilizer used, crop mutations can occur. This will require some experimenting. We will see more of that in Skytree Village. But I like the idea, and crop mutations are now a staple in the Natsume Harvest Moon games. I got lucky, I harvested my first mutated crop this morning, which is a great spinach. I was going to sell my spinach to Sam, but I opted for keeping it in the fridge instead, as the money you get for crops and all of the time you put into growing them is a lot less than the lumber I can easily get in a few minutes. So I sell some of my lumber, and instead of buying new seeds, I go chop more trees. I don't think that's how farming games are supposed to work, but that is how you make money in The Lost Valley. When I go to bed on that day, I dream of two blonde ladies. It looks like a mom and her daughter, but I wake up again to someone completely unrelated. This woman is called Andrea. She's a clocksmith who was hoping to make this house her new studio, but I already claimed it as my own, so that's not gonna work. Regardless, she finds the place to be pretty, so she will come on her days off, which are Sundays and Thursdays, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., this time written in a consistent format. I don't play farming games for the story, but I still cannot get over the fact that all of these people are climbing all their way up here in the middle of nowhere on such a strict and rigorous schedule just to stand in the cold snow near my house. I'm terribly bored, and I'm the one living here who has the farm and the house. I can't imagine what's motivating them to come here. I may be bored, but I still have a mission to accomplish. Tonight, or this morning as I go to bed at 11 a.m., I dream of a pink sprite who is asking me to plant a lot of flowers. Then as I wake up, the yellow sprite, Rowan, tells me about a little girl who's been wandering around, and he wants me to ask her if she's lost, if I happen to run into her. I did run into her in my dream a few nights ago, and you've most likely noticed a pattern by now. Every night, I have these dreams introducing a new character or a plot point, but then every morning there's someone intruding into my house, and despite these two events being back-to-back, they never correlate. It all feels so disjointed and makes the game itself feel like a fever dream. Before we go looking for that girl, it is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to harvest my 99 broccolis. I won't make you watch the entire thing, but I rank up to level 2. Level 2 of what exactly? I'm going to guess level 2 of farming. And what does that do? That's another one of these things we'll never know. Following my dreams, I plant some flowers as requested by the sprite, and then I go searching for that lost child. I look around the goddess Spring, but she's not here. At least not today. I come back the following day, and there she is, finally. The camera pans towards her. She looks at me without saying a word and runs away. She is gone again, but she comes to my house the day after that. This whole thing is over several days. We get to talk, and I learn that she's looking for her mom. I don't think she'll find her mom here, but going forward, she will stop by on Wednesdays and Fridays from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then from 10 to 6 on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we are going to be seeing Iris and April, the blonde ladies from earlier. I know it's hard to keep up with all of these characters, and they're going to be running a flower shop. By the way, if you play this game, you have to remember all of these nonsensical schedules, as they are not written anywhere. I'm also being told in my sleep that April's birthday is coming up, which reminds me that I most likely missed Sam's birthday. It turns out you get a reminder a whole week in advance, but that's it, nothing the day before or the day of. I can't be bothered with birthdays though. I'm busy growing flowers. I don't know how many I need. The quest log just says harvest lots of flowers, so that's what I do, and after a few days, Rowan finally introduces me to Blossom, the pink flower sprite. Even though we are making progress, before we can save the goddess, we still need 2 more sprites who should show up after I achieve the very vague goals of catching lots of fish and raising animals. After a few more days of trying to figure out how to get a fishing rod, how to get animals, I'm really not feeling like I'm the one in control here, but eventually, this guy shows up and gives me a fishing rod. Fishing is simple. It is 1 button to cast the rod, then the fish shows up, I wait for it to bite, and when there's an exclamation mark, I press a button to reel. I get lots of fish on my first day, and the very next day, Dewey the blue fish sprite is here. We're still missing the animal sprite, But the goddess has been revived, and she wants me to give her back her bracelet. So I do that, thinking she's about to put an end to the endless winter, but plot twist, it's not enough. For that, she will need the 3-season crystals. There is still so much to do, but at least I can ask the sprites to help with my chores. Rowan and Blossom can fertilize crops and flowers, while Dewey can water them. I can only get the help of one sprite a day, and since I find watering very tedious, I start with Dewey. He accepts to help. I run back to my fields as quickly as possible to see him in action, but when I get there, he's already gone, and only 2 of my crops have been watered. Dewey didn't do it, so I water the rest myself, but I will stop farming after that as it feels pointless. I am getting one step closer to waking up the animal sprite, as in a dream I see a knockoff Gray with a cow. If you're not familiar with Gray, he was living on the Green Ranch in Harvest Moon 64, and he looked somewhat similar to this guy. But before we can meet him in person, here comes everybody's favorite scientist, Doc, who introduces me to Insta Building. With this machine, I can place a barn instantly, and so now I have a barn, and later I will be able to buy other buildings from Doc. If you're not sold on this game already, I didn't mention it yet, but it includes all DLC from the 3DS version. So not only can I insta-build a barn, I can also insta-build some statues and pergolas to decorate my farm and truly bring it to the next level. Speaking of level, I get to level 2 while harvesting some flowers. I thought I was already level 2, but let's not get distracted from our goal, finding the animal sprite. Shortly after, Knockoff Gray comes in without knocking, and he is searching for his cow that ran away. We check in my barn. Who knows how the cow ran all the way up here to find the barn, but it's now her new home. The guy just casually tells me I can keep her, and I learn that his name is not Gray, but Hunter. You know what? I would be running away too if I was a cow. She's safe here. She gives me a jug of milk that's almost bigger than me. I brush her and there's this black cloud, flickering black cloud of dust. I think she was long overdue for some care. And after a few days of doing that, Calvin shows up, the last one of the 4 sprites. Calvin speaks exactly like Ned Flanders from The Simpsons. He's overly friendly and adds doodles and diddlies in every sentence. With the 4 sprites reunited, if you thought that was the end, unfortunately, there's more. I now have to make strawberry jam for the goddess to regain her power, and because farming is so tedious and I didn't need to do it for money, I've not been growing anything in a while. I plant a few strawberry seeds, and as I wait for them to grow, I make a discovery. I knew I could terraform on the land, but I did not know I could also terraform over the water. So I make a little bridge of soil to cross this river, and it feels like a whole new world just opened itself to me. There is a lot more trees for me to chop and make money from, but also this cave where I meet Doc, whom until now I had actually never met outside of the cutscenes at my house, and I don't think he ever told me where to find him. It is an excellent timing though, because he's the one selling the kitchen, which I need to make the strawberry jam that I then deliver to the goddess. Finally, after all of this, the goddess makes the spring crystal. Everybody is excited for the return of spring, the colorful flowers, veggies everywhere growing happily. The endless winter is going to be a thing of the past, and we'll all live happily ever after in the Lost Valley. There's just one tiny problem, and it is that we're now in summer, so I won't see any of these changes until next spring, or if I manage to get the summer crystal before fall. By the way, as you know, the word summer is longer than spring, but like with many things, the developers didn't bother too much. So right now it's Wednesday, and instead of wed space summer, it just reads wed summer all in one word. With that being said, Andrea, you can now take my house to make your studio. I am out of here. Just kidding, there's an invisible wall. I'm stuck here a bit longer, and we still have to see what Skytree Village is all about. This next entry is pretty similar at first glance. The stick doesn't work in the main menu. I choose my name, birthday, gender, but I notice that my body proportions are a bit more realistic. so hopefully my head will finally fit on the pillow. To spice things up, we start our adventure with not a snowstorm, but a sandstorm. I still don't know what I'm doing or what I'm looking for, but this mysterious sprite is back to tell me I might be able to help the goddess and bring some life back to the land. There she is, the same harvest goddess as earlier, and you will see through our time here that not much has changed. I can't lie, I'm still a bit mad she made me work so hard all for nothing, and apparently it's not just me who's mad. Everyone stopped caring about her, and therefore she lost her power. She wants me to help her through the power of caring, so that she can revive these Skytrees, which in turn will revive the land. Fine, I will give her a second chance, but I will need your help this time. Please give me some of your power of caring by leaving a like on the video. Alright, that should be good enough. With that, I'm able to care just enough for her to revive this one Skytree and bring back our lovely friend Rowan. Also, I know the bar is not really high, but I have to say they really cleaned up the audio. The music is looping seamlessly throughout all of this. Rowan teaches me how to farm, the controls are pretty much the same, and he's still making sure that for sowing seeds I do not press the Y button, but the A button. I don't know why he's very fixated on that. One big improvement here is that I can plant and harvest up to 9 seeds at a time, so I won't have to spend an entire day planting 99 broccoli seeds one by one. Before I do too much farming though, Rowan wants to show me my house. Look at the shock on my character's face when he recognizes the place and sees that yes, we are still in the Lost Valley. There is no more snow obviously, but the house is the same, the yard is the same, everything's the same, at least from the outside. Inside, the bed is placed in a more normal way. I already have a kitchen. A few things look different, but for better or for worse, I feel at home. As Rowan is showing me around, he says, "By the way, on the screen, you can see some heart icons. Notice how you've lost a few hearts? I search as hard as I can, but no, I don't notice any hearts." And then he continues, "Next to the heart icons, you see face icons, right? Those show your health. I'm really trying, but I also don't see the face icons." And that's when I remember, again, this is a port from a 3DS game, and I have to assume that originally you could see all of these icons on the lower screen, while the dialogue was happening on the upper screen, or maybe it was the other way around. Not a big deal. When we finish talking and I get back into the gameplay, I can see all of the icons, but it just shows that they may have forgotten to adjust or double check a thing or two when working on this title. Before wrapping up this first day, I look at my encyclopedia and I haven't changed. I'm still a young man who likes plants, flowers, and animals. My occupation is, as always, main character, and my affinity with myself is blank. Other things have improved. I fit much better on the bed, and this might be why my dreams will start being a bit more cohesive than before. On this first night, I dream of 2 people coming to town. Yes, that's right, I said town. The invisible wall is gone, and town was maybe a bit of an exaggeration because it's Skytree Village, but there's also just one hotel, one dried up fountain, that's it, and 2 people standing in front of that fountain. Yes, the same 2 people I just saw in my dreams. It's a mom and her son, Carol and Dean, who came with the intent to grow a mysterious seedling given by the dad, but they don't think it will grow properly with how dry everything is. They keep insisting on this idea that it is supposedly really dry, and that nothing could ever possibly grow here, all while the grass is bright green with tons of little flowers on it. Behind us are 2 lush, flowery bushes and a bunch of cherry trees in full bloom. Sure, there's no water in the fountain, maybe we need to turn it back on, but what I'm seeing and what the characters are saying do not match. I tell them I will make the land lush and green again. The mom especially does not seem too confident, but she gives me some seeds so that I can prove her wrong. As I return home, I run into a familiar face, Sam. He may have lost his accent, but not his business sense, as he tries to sell me the same golden wallet. I know not much has been making sense so far, But Sam in particular is quite fascinating because he's not really a scammer. During his dialogue, yes, he always sounds super sketchy. With almost every sentence, he is clearly being portrayed as trying to cheat or take advantage of you. But then, you trade with him like any regular merchant. If you take Juan in Mineral Town or Sammy in Harvest Moon 64, these characters were actually shady. If you made the wrong choices, you could buy fake or worthless items from them, but once in a while, they would have a proper good deal, and so there was always a bit of risk when trading with them as you didn't know the outcome. Here with Sam, Nat Smith took that trope of the untrustworthy businessman, but all of your interactions with him are perfectly fine, so there is a big disconnect again between the dialogue and what you're actually experiencing. Before I can trade with him though, just like with Dean and Carol, I will have to prove myself and grow some veggies. He doesn't give me any seeds, so I try talking to him to see if I can buy some, and that's when Rowan pops up, asks if I lost my cabbage seeds, and he gives me some. I couldn't lose what I never had in the first place, but now look at me, I have 4 cabbage seeds. I start farming and I rank up to level 2, the infamous level 2. This time, Rowan doesn't give me extra tools like an axe or a shovel, so I can't cut any trees yet, there's absolutely nothing else for me to do, so I aimlessly run around for a few hours and I go to bed around noon. As I try talking to Sam the next morning, Rowan asks me again if I lost my cabbage seeds. I didn't lose anything, I just planted them, but he gives me some more and I just found a fun little loophole. I plant those new seeds, rank up to level 2 again, and since I have no cabbage seeds left in my bag, Rowan thinks I lost them and he gives me more. I do that until I have a pretty good sized field, but I don't want to cheat too much, so at one point I harvest the cabbages I planted yesterday. They grow very fast. I show them to Sam and we move forward with the story. Sam is so impressed by my cabbages that he decides to stick around, but not just in front of my house from 6 AM to 8 PM. Of course, he will be spending a bit of time here, but he's also going to have his very own house in the village. While our little infinite seeds magic trick might be over, the magic continues as I dream of this wizard, and when I wake up, there he is. It doesn't take much to impress me at this point, but so far, the sequence of events is a lot more cohesive than in the first game. The wizard asks for my name and occupation, I'm Josh, main character, and then he explains how he's moving in to do some research, not too different from Luke. He's got something else, something suspicious going on, however, as just like me, he can see the harvest sprites, which is not something regular people should be able to. I'm suspecting he might be trying to come for my role of main character. He already built his house in the village, but don't worry, I won't let that happen in my story. Sam's shop is here too, we have some very fast builders. There's also this other guy, an aristocrat called Cyril Regis Shireworth Tuxley III. He's looking for the goddess pond, and just like that, he decides to move in and bam, he has a house in the village like everybody else. Meanwhile, we have Carol and Dean, who have been homeless for 5 days. They are just wandering around, there's a whole hotel right there, but no, they would rather stand outside. I am especially concerned for Carol, who's always in corners staring at the walls, but luckily, I got something to make her feel better, the flowers that I grew on my farm. She can hardly believe it, but her and Dean are now fully convinced to stay, and not even a minute later, who knows where they found the building materials, but they've got their whole house and flower shop built. With all of this power of caring, the harvest goddess regains a bit more strength, Blossom, the flower sprite, comes back, and this Skytree near my farm is revived. This means more grass, more space to farm, new areas to explore, but I can't get there as these blocks are a bit too high. I do not have the shovel yet, so I cannot terraform, and I get it, it's fine. But I just played the first game, and I'm pretty sure Rowan told me I could jump using the B button. I try everything, even the forbidden Y button, but I cannot jump. I give up, go to bed, and it turns out I had to wait one more day for Rowan to teach me how to jump. I guess my character spent his entire life until now without knowing how to lift his feet off the ground, But what's important at the end of the day is that I can now jump to this new area. I'm not the only one having to fight the laws of physics. As I harvest my first onions, I can see them inflating. It seems to be only the onions, the other veggies were not like that. When I harvest them, they start really small, then they slowly get bigger and bigger until they disappear. This is a word I've been using a lot, but it is jarring. Other than that, things are going relatively well, and with the nature getting better, we have two new residents, or should I say, returning residents. Here's Bastien and his daughter, Elise. They're running the inn that they abandoned when there were no longer any fresh ingredients, but they're now back thanks to all of my hard work. To thank me, they give me this fishing rod that we'll use to wake up the next sprite, Dewey. On top of that, if I can catch 3 perch, Bastien will make the magic of his cuisine with them and invite the whole town for a party. Oui, these two new characters are very French. I'm just reading you the dialogue how the developers wrote it. The Harvest Goddess wants to speak French too. It is one of her side quests and she asks me to grow 3 petits onions. I am growing onions, but they're not petite. They're the opposite, they're inflated, and I'm not sure what a petite onion is supposed to be in the first place. While I think of a solution, I catch the fish for Bastien, and sacre bleu, now we are almost ready for the party, but there is a problem. Apparently, the kitchen inside the inn, which they make sure to call their restaurant kitchen, well, it's not spacious enough to cook these 3 fish at once. I don't know what we would do without her, but Elise has the brilliant idea to prepare the food at my place instead. So I run to my tiny house where I have a single gas burner, a sink, and no counter space at all, and I start cooking. We then gather everybody for the party, after which Elise tells me she would like to one day become a magnificent chef like her papa, her same papa who made me cook everything by myself. That was a lot of work, but the power of caring did its thing, and Dewey the fish sprite is back. He learned this time he actually does water all of the crops. Hopefully it will turn some of the onions I planted into petite onions, and I also fertilize them to see if that changes anything, and it doesn't. My onions are still just onions. I have no clue what I'm supposed to be doing. That is when I have to resort to GameFAQs, as I am far from the only one struggling with this petite onion situation. Thanks to Stormfeather, who shared their answer with the world 8 years ago, I learned that the petite onion is a tier 2 mutation. That's right, the goddess hasn't told me anything about mutations yet or how they work, and not only does she want a mutated crop, she wants a tier 2 mutated crop. It's kind of complicated, even for experienced players apparently, but basically you need to grow onions in spring in dry soil around medium elevation. There is a thing called house elevation, which is where you enter and exit the area, and ideally you should aim for a few levels below that. Once they're ready to be harvested, some of the onions will turn into scallions. If you want, you can save and reload the night before if you don't have enough, but you need to have 30 scallions, sell them, and that will unlock scallion seeds. You then repeat that exact same process but using the scallion seeds, all while making sure you're still in spring, so you have to be pretty fast, and only then you can get petite onions. In theory, this system sounds amazing. I love my farming sims like I love my onions with a lot of layers, but the problem here is that the game does not tell you any of that. The goddess did not mention crop mutations, I just know they exist because of Luke in the first game. And also keep in mind that this is the very first side quest I was given. I'm able to get 1 scallion, but thankfully it is a side quest, so I will put it in the ignore part of my brain, right alongside the wizard, and I keep going with my main story. I need animals to summon the animal sprite, and again, we have the lovely duck to help with that. He builds his lab in the village. It is starting to look quite chaotic as we have all of these buildings with vastly different architectural styles. There are no paths connecting them, no decor like benches or street lamps. It's just green grass and a bunch of houses. In one of these houses is a blacksmith from whom I get this axe, so that I can chop trees and clear space for my insta barn. It doesn't take too long after that for a horse to show up, followed by this family of 3 running after it. Long story short, they let me keep the horse. People love giving away their animals to complete strangers in this world, and they move in just as easily. not only were these people having some issues with their horse, but when I entered their house to visit them, I learned that their dog Max is sick because the youngest son of this family, Michael, didn't care for him properly. So now, of course, it's my job to feed the dog, and Elise suggests we make some dog food using 2 corns and 1 black bass. No problem, I already have corn, and I can catch a black bass pretty easily. We prepare the dog food at the end. It looks like their kitchen has enough space for that. Then we try feeding it to Max, but it's not good enough for him. Elise suggests we try with 2 corns and 1 perch instead. I don't think a different type of fish will make much of a difference, but sure, let's try it. I'm out of corn, so fast forward a few days. I get my corn, wait around until the inn opens at 10 AM, and we prepare the new dog food. Still not good enough for Max, who completely refuses to eat. We ask Papa Bastien for advice, and he has the brilliant idea to maybe ask what food the dog likes. So we return to Michael, asks him what Max's favorite food is, which frankly should have been our starting point, and this time for some reason Michael also gives me the dog bowl. To make Max's favorite food, we will need cabbage, tomatoes, and mosquito fish. It will take a while, but I can grow the veggies. The mosquito fish, however, is giving me a really hard time. I fish for days and days, rain or shine, morning and evening. I try with bait, no bait. I catch a wide variety of fish, but no mosquito fish. It's not until Monday, Summer 6, or Month Summer 6, again, thanks to GameFAQs, that I learn this fish only spawns in high elevation, such as right here in front of the cave leading to the Goddess Spring. So I catch the mosquito fish, we make the food, but this time with the help of Michael, who gives it to Max by himself. After all of this, Max finally decides to eat, and while he's eating, so Max is the dog is eating, the older sibling puts his hand in the dog bowl and tries some of the food for himself. We have a bit of a strange family here. I'm judging a little bit, but the verdict they come to is that the food is not necessarily the best, and it was just that Max was waiting for Michael specifically to feed him. From now on, Michael promises to stop neglecting his dog, and apparently that is enough power of caring for the goddess to bring back Calvin, who greets us with a warm hello-dee-doodle-doo. I brought the 4 sprites back. Things are going fairly well, but as you know, it's never enough for the goddess. Now she would like me to search for a Skytree seedling that will let me climb to the sky, after which I will have to convince the harvest god to help us. And I wish I could help, but frankly, I do not have any power of caring left in me. I am leaving this place for good. To conclude, I cannot recommend these 2 games. Yes, there are a few good ideas hidden in there, such as the crop mutations, but the execution is what's the most important, and it's not here. The world and story don't make sense, the quests and progression are confusing, the gameplay is not that interesting, and overall, the negatives far outweigh the positives. There are so many better options out there on the Nintendo Switch, and even if you go back to 2014 and 2016 when they released on the 3DS, at that time we already had Harvest Moon: A New Beginning, Story of Seasons, Trio of Towns, all of the older Harvest Moon DS games, all of which offer so much more. Skytree Village is an improvement over the Lost Valley, and Natsume has been continuing to improve their games very gradually, but for me at least, 10 years later they have yet to provide the kind of experience I'm looking for in a farming simulation game. But I would love to know what you think. Have you played the Harvest Moon Cozy Bundle? Maybe you have some amazing nostalgic memories with those. Maybe you got fooled thinking it was the original Harvest Moon series. Let me know in the comments, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.